Welcome to Nature's Neighbor on AM 1230 KPRL. Nature's Neighbor. We're live and local and all about living sustainably right here on the Central Coast.
Good afternoon, everyone out there. I am your host, Melanie Blankenship, sitting in the studio with our boy Chad Steven and our birthday boy Mike, who is celebrating his 23rd birthday again. He won't tell me what his age is, but I wanted to wish him a happy birthday again on the air. It was pretty exciting to walk in and see all these signs all over the studio in celebration of his good day. So to anybody who wants to call and give Mike a shout out, go for it. And I just hope that he has a really good rest of his day. It's actually really beautiful outside, nice and a little bit chilly, and hope for a birthday rain today for how badly we all need it out there. And they're calling for it this evening, so let's hope that it comes so we can all go out and do the dance so it does come. So this show is all about food, farming, and family right here on the Central Coast of beautiful California. So let's get on to that conversation. And if you have any calls that you want to get into the show and get some questions answered in regards to that, give us a call, 238-5775, 238-KPRL. And on that note of family, I do want to share a little something and a little thought that I've been having. And from a little experience that I've had this last week, I had a loss of a family member, an aunt that was 90 years old. Bernice Branch was her name. And I am that person that there's not very many people that I look up to, but there are those few that I truly just hold really close to my heart and just truly admire, and only think of how I can, as a mother, as a citizen of this community, as a human being, even just come up close to what I've witnessed in my 38 and a half years of life. A witness from these people that have influenced me and what they've exposed my life to. Bernice Branch was this woman who, even at her service, people were coming up from years ago talking about how incredible this woman was. And yes, we can sit here and we can always talk about the moments of our past and the remarkable things that each and every one of us have done. But what makes this woman different was, I'm just going to give an example. Okay, so she has this ranch, had the ranch up in Idaho, and literally this ranch is away from any town. You know, you have to drive to town, it's 45 minutes, and that's, I mean, you could go to town and get beer and cigarettes kind of town. It's not a town that you could go get groceries in, okay? So to go get groceries, it was like an hour and a half away, and it was, you know, pretty extensive roads that you had to drive to get to town to get to those groceries. And I remember as a child, my parents and I and my brother would go up there and spend time with my cousins and our family up at the ranch. And there was one Christmas that we went up there and spent, and we got snowed in. And also my mom left the parking brake on and froze the parking brake permanently on, so we could not come home. As a child that was in school, I thought that was pretty cool, because we actually got snowed in for an additional 2 weeks. And there was so much snow up in Idaho that you could not just go to town. And there was at least 23 people in this ranch house during this time. There was never once a time during that whole time we got snowed in that house that any of us ever went without. And we literally would sit down at a long table, breakfast, lunch, and dinner with all the ranch hands, the ranchers, all the family. Everybody sat and had a meal 3 times a day and literally had conversations on what work needed to be done, how things needed to be done, in order for us to carry on and to survive in a snowed-in house with that many people in the house. I just wanted to share that because I'm only 38 years old, and I do read about things like this in history books. And this is the kind of woman that Aunt Bernice was. She did everything. I remember Joni, my cousin, and I sitting on the table, at the table peeling potatoes. I remember, taking carrots and chopping carrots at a young age and doing things with her and learning from her and my mom and my cousins there, getting dinner together. It was this, and mind you, she had a full-time job. This lady worked 40-plus hours a day, plus ran a ranch, plus fed her families, plus farmed, plus ranched, plus gardened. And never once in all these years that I have been influenced by her, do I ever remember a time of a negative thought or moment coming out of her mouth or her expressions and moods. She always thought of, okay, so we have a situation right now. We got to figure it out. And let's snap to it. And let's figure this out and move on. And that is what we are to do, is what I learned to do in this community on how to get through crazy times and crazy moments. And how do we figure out when we have a situation where it might not be as convenient or as easy as it was or might be, we still need to figure out how to survive. And I am so lucky as the child that I was and the parents that I had and grandparents to grow up in this community like this, and then my family that ranched here in California as well, in Idaho, to learn from there. And that is truly who I am. I am here to share resources that I have accumulated and how to get through things or how to figure things out to carry us on. And I'm looking to this community to also share their resources and their knowledge on how they carried on and got through things. Because realistically, how did we all get here? It was because we all made the decision on our path and what direction we're going to take. And so that is what I truly just am going to hold on from this last week's loss of an amazing, beautiful woman. And I just, in all the sadness that we have been experiencing this last week with the family, I have such a warm feeling inside of me, because if I can only live half as well as that woman had, I'm doing pretty good. And so here's to Aunt Bernice for this week. Thank you. Thank you to her family. Thank you to her. And thank you to my mom and dad who have exposed me to what they have and taught me in carrying on. I hope I can do that with my children. And also with carrying on, I want to chat a little bit more about this season's gardening and with this weather and all that's going on with our inflection temperatures, because I'm a little nervous out there, you guys, because if you guys were up with me about 6:30, 7 o'clock this morning, we were dipping pretty low in the 30-ish in certain areas. And to all those people who have out there planted their tomatoes or their pepper plants or their squash, please, please, please be careful, because the temperatures are also showing to go a little low the next, not tonight because they're calling for rain, so we should have some cloud cover, so we shouldn't dip into that cold of temperatures. But the next couple of days after that is showing some cooler temperatures. So keep in mind, tomatoes especially are your nightshade plants. Nightshade, what does that mean? That means they bloom and ripen at night. Okay, so what is a tomato, pepper? Let's go tomatoes first so I don't overwhelm you. Tomatoes thrive in 82 to 92 degree daytime temperatures and never dropping below about a 62 degree temperature at night. So now that we're kind of getting into these cooler nights, into the high 30s, even I saw some temperatures, 33 this morning for about an hour by the Salinas River. Those temperatures, although might not kill your plant, will stunt your plant. And what happens is tomatoes are all about counting of the days. So you'll see on your seed packet or the tag that you bought your tomato from that it has a number of days on that, and some of them are 65. Some of your larger tomatoes, big slicing tomatoes, you're going to see 85 to 90 days. What does that mean? That means that those plants have never been exposed to anything below the high and the low temperature in order to count those days. So say you planted your tomatoes a couple of days ago and we're starting to see these cooler temperatures. Well, even though it might not kill your plant, it won't allow the counting of those days. So we continue to have cooler days. It starts minusing the days until you're actually going to start to see flowering and fruiting. If we have too long of extensive cold temperatures, there's a good chance of sterilizing your fruit, meaning you're not going to see any flower or fruit. So this is the time, all of us farmers who are out there having to farm our crops, because if we don't get production, we don't get paid, so therefore who's going to be able to afford to buy the seeds to be able to plant it again? We can't gamble with the fact of when these inconsistent temperatures happen. We have to go out and aerate the soil, get good compost on it, and maybe throw some straw or something that's going to insulate any bit of heat that we can keep in the soil to keep it as warm as we possibly can. That is going to somewhat protect us. But the top of your plant, there's a good chance if we get this frost like they're calling for, cover your plant, a light sheet or, some type of cover that when the frost lays down, it doesn't lay down on top of your plants, because we don't want to lose the investment in which you've made. And so all of us have not planted our tomatoes or peppers. Peppers are even more on the extreme. Sweet and hot. Hot are even more extreme to making sure that they get closer to that 92-degree daytime temperature, never dropping below 72-degree nighttime temperature. So, 65 to 72 is where they thrive on when they're going to flower and when they're going to also produce and ripen. So keep that in mind. I know there's a lot of people out there that have tried to get a jump start on your planting of your summer crops, but keep in mind it's summer crops. We're not there yet. We're just early spring, and it's really important to keep our temperatures at check so that we can continue to carry our gardens on. So here we are on the first half of our show. As I come back to our second half, I'm going to share with you some of the different heirloom varieties of plants that Nature's Touch carries and talk about those different varieties, because I'm getting so many people that are overwhelmed with the varieties. So when we come back, we'll talk more about varieties and also what's going on in our kitchen at Nature's Foods. So stay with us. We'll be right back after these short messages. Welcome back to the second half of Nature's Neighbor right here on KPRL 1230. I'm your host again, Melanie Blankenship, sitting in the studio with our boy Chad Stevens, ready to take your phone call with answering questions that pertain to food, family, farming, and home, being right here on the central coast of the beautiful California that we're hoping for rain right now, and it looks like it and it feels like it outside. So, and they're calling for 90% of it. 90% chance that it's going to happen. So I'll take it any way that I can get it, because my orchard is starting to pop and all the leaves and all the flowers are coming out, and I really don't want to have to kick the irrigation on it yet if I don't have to. So let's cross our fingers and hope for rain. And I was pretty excited because we actually have a couple of days in this week of opportunity of rain. So let's hope that it comes and in good amounts, because our plants and food needs it. So I want to take this short time and talk about a little bit about all the varieties of heirloom vegetables that Nature's Touch has to provide in plants as well as the harvest, but now it's all about plants. And yes, as I talked about a little bit before we went to break, it is still early and there's a good chance of frost, so please, please, please be careful. But what we're all doing as gardeners and farmers is that we are collecting the varieties and planning out our garden and how we're going to lay it out, that it's going to make it more efficient to be able to get it to produce without any waste. Because realistically, none of us in this society can afford to waste water, afford to waste any food that is available that is coming on in our gardens. So we grow over, just in tomatoes, we grow over 125 different varieties of heirloom tomatoes. So what is an heirloom? An heirloom is something that has to date back at least 50 years or more with no change. So what does that mean? It means that we grew out the tomato on its vine and we picked the best one, the one that doesn't have any sunburning or splitting or showing any disease or deficiency of that fruit. We vine ripen it so it's got a good little squish to it. We pick it and take the green off of it, meaning the vine, any green vine to it. And I put it in crocks, put a little cheesecloth over it, label on the side of the crock or the container, which I use glass or ceramic, which is my crocks, and I let it rot. And, after, depending on what size that tomato is, after a couple weeks to a month, it will fully liquefy. all those seeds that were available in that tomato are there in that nice, gooey, slimy gunk. This is also the time when there's no mold or mildew still on that tomato. It has already gone through all of its rot, and I then collect the seeds. Those seeds, that rotting process actually helps feed the seeds as well as heal the seeds. Have you ever had a tomato that you didn't pick out in your garden and you let it rot, and then the next year you have all these baby tomato plants all over the place, and they're usually the ones that actually produce really good and really strong. Why? Because they rotted in the garden and they naturalized in your garden. So that's kind of how we do it by letting it rot, is that rot actually feeds and helps heal those seeds. Yes, you can, cut open a fresh tomato and take the seeds out. There's a good chance that they will germinate from that, depending on the variety in which you started with. But there's a good chance that they're not strong enough to be able to flower and fruit. So that rot actually helps all of that. So then I air dry those seeds, and then those seeds will germinate to the same exact variety as long as I didn't overplant or stress my tomato plant out. Tomatoes usually stay within their same breed unless you overplant or you stress them out and you're planting them too close together. There's usually one male to several females on the plant, and they usually stay within their same breed. So that's why you can keep tomatoes going easily year after year. And so, but that's also knowing the varieties in which you started with too. There's hybrids out there that are, two different types of tomatoes that are crossed together. So you never know when you're saving seed what you're really going to get. There's like the early girls. The early girls are a larger tomato that has been crossed with the cherry tomato. So there's a good chance that when you try to save your early girls, you're more likely going to get a cherry tomato because those are the stronger, the more dominant breed. So there's a good chance that a lot of your seeds that you save from those, you'll get a cherry tomato. So knowing your heirlooms, knowing the varieties of your tomatoes in which you started with, you're able to then to collect the seed and to carry it on. And that is what a true heirloom. It has to go back at least 50 years or more to be an heirloom. And so no, heirlooms do not mean just because they're different colors does that mean that it is an heirloom. It is an heirloom from knowing that it has gone through at least 50 years or more with no change. So some of the most popular varieties of heirloom tomatoes that are sold at Nature's Touch in beautiful downtown Templeton is things like, if you guys are all into a red tomato, our favorite tomato in the store is a stew piece. A stew piece is an heirloom tomato that has a Czechoslovakian descent, which is very close and near and dear to my heart because my mother-in-law is Czechoslovakian. And it actually dates back to, this actual tomato actually dates back to the late 1700s. It's a great tomato, and what's really cool about it is it's actually got a potato leaf vine. So it's going to look more like a potato plant, but it actually is not. It is a tomato that has a potato leaf vine, and it actually, I like it because when you're trellising them up to, be able to help hold on to the fruit, that vine seems a little stronger to be able to hold on to a lot of production. So you're going to get a ton of tomatoes from that. And also what makes this tomato really awesome is that it's an early tomato. It's only about a 70, I'm doing this off memory, so I don't mark my words on it. It's about 70 day tomato. So that means that it's 70 days of warm temperatures, and it counts the days, and it gives you a good 8 to 10 ounce good slicing tomato. So not a large 1 pounder, 2 pounders, but a good consistent sized tomato. And also, guys, keep in mind too, all tomatoes, no matter which ones you're doing, actually thrive better in drier soils. So that's why the North County is ideal to grow tomatoes, because we have notoriously dry soils. Now is the time when things, we're getting our soil nice and aerated and loose, getting our amendment in it, our nutrient value in our soils. But then when we go to plant, that's when we're going to stimulate our roots to be deep, and that's when we water deeply. Once our plants start to flower and fruit, that is when the water production should be kicked back a little bit, only giving your plant enough water so it doesn't wilt. That is the way that you're going to be able to stimulate a lot more flowering and fruiting. A lot of the times when you overwater, a lot of times that's when the sunburning and splitting starts to happen. So if you start to see that, maybe cut your water back, and it will help a lot more in your production. We have a caller. Jeff?
Hi, you're Nature's Neighbor. Good afternoon. I would like to know if Melanie has any bare root hazelnut trees in stock.
I don't have any hazelnuts, and I have not seen hazelnut in a long time. What I would do if I were you, I would contact Neil at Trees of Antiquity, and they're right here in San Miguel. If you want to call the store, we can give you their number and contact them. They are our county's largest collection of vintage and hard-to-find fruit and nut trees. And if anybody can find you a hazelnut tree, that man can.
What is the name of the man?
His name is Neil.
Neil.
And his company is called Trees of Antiquity.
Trees of Antiquity.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then call my store, 434-3062, and Teresa will probably answer, and have her give you Neil's phone number.
Would you give me that number again?
434-3062.
3066?
62.
62?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much for your phone call, and here we are at the end of our really quick show. I just want to tell you guys all thank you so much for your continued love and support. I will be back next week, and we will continue this conversation of food, family, farming, and home right here on the Central Coast of California. Enjoy this beautiful weather out there, you guys, and start talking. We need to start sharing resources, guys, and let's get better as a community together. Thank you so much.